You're tuning into Black and White Sports on YouTube. The no-holds-barred truth on sports. The main event starts now.
Black and White sports fans, let's talk about our good old friend, Stephen A. Smith. Stephen A. Smith of ESPN, a.k.a. Wolt Center, a.k.a. ESPCNN. For the past year, man, I believe that Stephen A. Smith has been one of the most woke people out there in the woke sports media. He really has. And he has a man that works across from him in Matt Kellerman that is actually more woke than Stephen A. But I believe that Stephen A. Smith he's probably surpassed Matt Kellerman, or Mark Kellerman, as my boy Greg Foreman calls him from a Black conservative perspective. But Stephen A. Smith was very, very vocal and very, very critical of Steve Nash getting the Brooklyn Nets head coaching position because he was white. That was a problem for Stephen A. Smith. He had a problem with Steve Nash getting that job because he is white. Stephen A. Smith did not care about any of the qualifications of Steve Nash. It was strictly because of skin color. And folks, this is the problem with ESPN. This is why they are dying. They're so focused on identity politics. They are. It's gotten so overboard that I actually thought that the Jemele Hill era of ESPN, I didn't think that could actually get any more woker. And Jemele Hill is not even there anymore. And folks, they have doubled down on the wokeness. You guys know this. NBA, Black Lives Matter all on the court last year in the NBA bubble. Stephen A. Smith has been screaming even at the black players to get black coaches jobs strictly because they are black. Now, guys, check this out. Stephen A. Smith lauds NBA for hiring black head coaches and takes credit. Nobody, quote, pushed this narrative more than me. Because, folks, 7 out of the 8 head coaches that have been hired so far, they have been black. Okay? And this is the problem here with ESPN. Check this out. This is a tweet from SportsCenter. ESPN, Wes Unseld Jr. will be the 7th black head coach hired out of 8 openings this offseason in the NBA, with a clapping hand emoji. You see, that focus on the identity politics. Jamal Mosley, Willie Green, Jason Kidd, Wes Unseld Jr., Nate McMillan, Chauncey Billups, and Emi Udoka. I believe that's the way you pronounce his name. Those are 7 of the 8 head coaches. Why don't you actually have the other coach here? It's actually because he is white. So he's not in that club. And the 8 coach that was actually hired, he's a really, really good coach, and he's been a very good coach for a long time. I'm talking about Rick Carlisle, the coach of the Indiana Pacers, longtime Dallas Mavericks coach, a very good coach. But let's move on. It says here, Stephen A. Smith has dedicated many segments to ESPN's First Take to the lack of black head coaches in the NBA. So when it looks like there's progress being made, he deserves some credit. And this website I'm on seems to be, kind of left and like pro ESPN in a way. Smith previously called out the hiring of Steve Kerr and Steve Nash as examples of white privilege, being handed championship-ready opportunities despite having 0 NBA coaching experience. Now, they said Steve Kerr. Steve Kerr's been at the Warriors for a while, so I don't know if Stephen A. Smith actually called out Steve Kerr, or the hiring of Steve Kerr. Actually, he may have, because Steve Kerr took over the Warriors, and they actually had Mark Jackson as the head coach. And Mark Jackson is a black man. He lost his job because I guess the Warriors could not get over the top. And we know what happened when Steve Kerr, a white man, got that position. Steve Kerr ended up winning 3 NBA titles. And Mark Jackson, he's been on TV. Mark Jackson's actually pretty good on TV. Now, Steve Nash, yes, he called that white privilege, even though the black players, and I'm talking about Kevin Durant and Kyrie Irving, they wanted Steve Nash. But Stephen A. Smith had a problem because Steve Nash is white. It says here, last month, Smith stormed off set after ranting and calling on NBA players to vouch for more black head coaches. But since the regular season ended, 7 of the 8 NBA head coaching vacancies were filled by black candidates. This is what Stephen A. Smith says, quote, "It's incredibly significant," Smith said Monday on First Take. "I don't know of anybody that has pushed this narrative more than me as it pertains to African Americans, actually we're black Americans, we're not from Africa, needing the opportunities to be head coaches in the National Basketball Association. During the 2012-2013 season, a record 14 of the NBA's 30 head coaches were black. However, 8 years later, the league went backwards with just 7 of the NBA's 30 head coaches being black for the start of the 2020-2021 NBA season. Now, see here, in 2012, 14, so almost half of the NBA coaches were black. And this was a non-story back then because we really weren't in the era of woke sports, BLM, kneeling for Marxism. It wasn't like that back then. Nobody cared. I didn't even know. And the only reason that I know that 7 of the 8 coaches got jobs now is because ESPN needs to push a narrative. I don't care about the number of coaches. I just want the best people for the job. It goes on here, it says, quote, "As it pertains to the NBA, a league that's over 75% black, you would think that the paucity of opportunities that were being accorded to these guys would have hit the radar for folks long before I had to get on the air and literally go to hell off about it," Smith told his co-host, Matt Kellerman. So a league that's 75% black, why is there not an uproar that the NBA doesn't have more Latino players? Why is there not an uproar that the league doesn't have more Asian players? Why? Because, that doesn't fit the narrative. The narrative is that black players, black people in general, are victims and oppressed, even though we absolutely are not. And I believe that Stephen A. Smith has been a detriment to black people for the past year with all this woke garbage that he's actually spitting out there. I mean, the race baiting in sports has gotten out of control. Almost nobody calls out Jemele Hill for the crazy stuff that she says. Nobody's really been calling out Stephen A. Smith for the crazy stuff he's been saying. Of course, us, Outkick, Sports Wars, we're pretty much the only ones that will actually do it. And Stephen A. Smith is on TV right now, which first takes ratings on the trash can because nobody likes woke sports and nobody cares about ESPN's First Take because it is all political. All political, man. But of course, Stephen A. Smith has to pat himself on the back. Now, what if Stephen A. Smith, these coaches do a terrible job? You know what's going to happen, right? They're going to end up losing their job. That's what's going to happen. And I do believe also that these teams actually did feel pressure to hire black coaches. They did, even though the black players were vouching for some of these white coaches. Stephen A. Smith, man, I used to have a lot of respect for this guy. I did. But Stephen A. Smith fell into the woke trap of ESPN. And he's gone downhill. I don't know if he can actually come back, guys. I really, really don't. That's just my thoughts on this. What do you guys think of this, black and white sports fans? Let us know what you think about all this in the comments. Make sure you subscribe to Black and White Sports. And we'll catch you next time.
Thanks for watching the show. Be sure to like, comment, and subscribe. Be sure to tune in next time on Black and White Sports.